Hello and welcome. If you don't know, my name is Mike, and in today's video, we're going to be ranking from my least favorite all the way to my favorite, a franchise that is by far in my top 3 of all time, and that is going to be the Leprechaun movies. That's right. So let's go ahead. Sorry about that. So let's go ahead and slice right into this, guys. Right here and right. Oh, hell no. You get the fuck out of here. You are not allowed here. Get the fuck off my channel. Get the fuck out of here. God damn it. Believable. Been trying to get recognized for years. Yeah, nice try, buddy. Not on this channel. So kicking off my list at number 7 is going to be Leprechaun Returns, the newest movie in the Leprechaun franchise. Now again, you probably already know that Warwick Davis was not reprising his role, or did not reprise his role for this film, and instead the Leprechaun character was taken on by Lyndon Porco. Now, I will say that I felt like Lyndon did a good job. To be honest with you guys, this movie has been out for a couple of years now, and I literally could not bring myself to watch it until literally last night before recording this video, because I just couldn't stand anyone being that character that was not Warwick himself, because he was just so good at it, and he made the Leprechaun who he is, and he is the Leprechaun, right? It's just as a similar way to, you know, Robert Englund being recast as Freddy Krueger, and that was a completely abysmal failure, but that's another video for another day. I felt like Lyndon did do a good job. I walked out of this movie thinking that was fun. It had good kills. I wasn't dreading it. I wasn't waiting for it to end. I don't really hate it per se, but I was talking to it some more over with my wife today, and the more I thought about it, the less I kind of cared for Lyndon's portrayal as the Leprechaun, and just simply, it just does not match up to the original 6 Leprechauns to me in any way, shape, or form, but not to say that it was bad. The one thing I will say, though, is Mark Holton reprising his role as Ozzy was by far the best part of this movie, and he was amazing. After all these years, he can step back into that character and still be Ozzy, feel a little older, a little different, but such a damaged and worried kind of Ozzy, but still Ozzy. Like, he just nailed it. Mark Holton was my favorite part of this film, but no Warwick Davis and some other issues that I had with the film in general. It just simply is number 7 for me. Finding its way at number 6 is going to be Leprechaun II. Leprechaun II, I think, suffers from a lot of things very similar to A Child's Play 3, in that I know the production was rushed on Leprechaun II. It was a very hard shoot. You know, things just weren't going right, and I think it shows overall in the movie. I just don't really care for Leprechaun 2 all that much. It doesn't progress any storylines. It has the completely whacked out, you know, the iron being a weakness, which was just really weird, and to my knowledge is not in lore with Leprechauns, like, whatsoever, so I didn't really care for that. And I didn't really care about any of the characters. Leprechaun 2, I think, just ultimately just falls short, and I think is low on a lot of people's lists for all those reasons, that it just was not a very great movie. I think the budget was even lower than the first one. It had a lot of problems. And I love seeing a Leprechaun kill people, and I love him being witty and doing everything that he does. But to see the Leprechaun just essentially try to get laid, I mean, essentially, right? Like, that's the whole premise of the movie. Am I wrong? Like, he's just trying to get a bride so he can get laid. I don't want to see that. I don't want to think about the Leprechaun getting banged or banging somebody out. I don't want to know about that. I don't want to see that. And I sure as hell don't want a whole movie about that. Although, it is not all negative, because Leprechaun 2 did have some really cool and really clever kills. Such as the I guess you'd say the boobs that turned into the big fans, the blades. That was really cool. And then Morty's death was really cool. The pot of gold in the stomach. Probably one of my favorite kills in the whole franchise. But a couple good kills, just for me, couldn't really save the movie. So ultimately it comes in at number 6. Landing firmly at number 5 for me is going to be Leprechaun in the Hood. I know a lot of fans actually really praise this movie, and they put it even higher on their list than things like Leprechaun Back to the Hood. But for me, I just don't like Leprechaun in the Hood as much as the other movies. Now, again, I love all these movies, but this one I have certain problems with, and that being I didn't connect with the characters really much at all. They were positive, and they were a little more built up than, you know, prior movies that came before it, but I still just didn't attach to them. I didn't really attach to their story. I didn't care about like the mediocre raps all the time that they were trying to perform. I didn't really care about his story of trying to be an aspiring musician. I just didn't like it for a Leprechaun film. I didn't like the flute. Out of all the weaknesses and hindrances that we've seen throughout the franchise, I thought the flute was by far like the weakest of them all. Like a flute, like, nah, man, I didn't really enjoy that too much. So the flute was kind of lame to me. And really my biggest problem with Leprechaun in the Hood, besides that, I feel like he's overpowered. I mean, there's literally a kill in this movie where he like flicks his wrists, or he like, you know, motions, and he uses his magic to blow a hole in some guy's chest or stomach, one or the other. But he blows a hole in the guy. And it just kind of leaves you thinking like, well, Lep, if you could do that, why the hell did you do that in the movies before or after? Like, if you're that freaking powerful, you know what I mean? So I didn't really care for that. But my biggest problem with Leprechaun in the Hood is that there was really no decisive ending. Like, they never killed the Leprechaun. He just kind of ended up sitting in the crowd, and I taught him everything he knows, you know, and then he just starts rapping, which was kind of weird and uncomfortable, you know, like in a weird way. So it's like, it wasn't a decisive ending. I want to see the Leprechaun die. I want to see a conclusive ending. I mean, conclusive enough because we know he's going to come back from a sequel. But I mean, like, they didn't even kill him. He was just kind of in the crowd. And a really weird, perverted scene with you know, the Master P guy dressing up like a woman and Leprechaun about to get with him. And it was just weird and awkward. And I don't want to see that shit. So Leprechaun in the Hood, man, it's number 5 for me, you guys. Number 4. You're probably wondering why you haven't heard this movie on this list yet. But it's Leprechaun 4. Leprechaun 4, I know a lot of people take a big old shit on Leprechaun 4. They don't like Leprechaun 4. They don't like that he's in space. They don't like the lightsaber. They don't like that he went up a freaking piss stream into some guy's fucking dick piece. But let me tell you guys something. That is every reason why I love Leprechaun 4. It is so outrageous. It is so balls to the wall that you can't help but love it. You know what I mean? You have to love Leprechaun 4 because, granted, the setting is different, and being in space, it's very similar to Jason X. When Kane Hodder said, hey, when he was asked, how did you approach playing Jason in space in Jason X? He said, I was Jason. His surrounding doesn't matter. The character is the character. The Leprechaun, I feel like, was the Leprechaun in space. He was still that character. It wasn't any different. There was some really funny stuff. The big middle finger at the end, when he grows in size and he checks his pants. All right, you know, that's awesome. I love all that stuff. The lightsaber was cool. Obviously, because Warwick Davis, obviously playing in the Star Wars film, you know, he has some attachment to the Star Wars movies. He's a big part of Star Wars, playing Wicket. So I thought that was all cool. And let's be honest, guys. When he ripped out of that guy's crotch, that was one of the coolest kills in the whole franchise. And you can't hate on that. It was super cool, super creative kill. And I even have a screen-used item from Leprechaun 4, so I have to love that movie to some degree, right? Leprechaun 4 in space, I think, is definitely balls to the wall, but in a good way. And Leprechaun 4 is definitely them, you know, the fish out of water kind of thing that they started with Leprechaun 3 and clearly carried it all throughout the rest of the franchise until Leprechaun Returns, and we don't talk about Origins, because who does? Why waste your breath? But I thought Leprechaun 4, for what it was just super cool, and you know, it's a little higher on my list than other people's, but hey, you know, what are you going to do? Leprechaun 4 in space? I got love for you. Slotting its way right into number 3 is a movie that is a lot lower on a lot of people's lists, but for me, it's number 3. That's going to be Leprechaun Back to the Hood. Back to the Hood was, ironically, the first Leprechaun movie I think I ever got on DVD. I had seen all the ones prior multiple times when I was a kid, renting them, and my parents would always take me to Blockbusters, and I may have had the VHSs, but the first one I actually got on DVD was Back to the Hood, so I know I watched it so many times. But I really like the characters. I like the two main women. I like both the main guys. I even like the gang members. Sticky Fingers, and I don't remember the other one. But I liked all the characters. I was attached to them, and I really, 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 really loved in Leprechaun Back to the Hood the opening animation that kind of shows his backstory a little bit and how there's multiple leprechauns. That I really liked. I thought that was really clever, and I wish that was in more of the other movies, like his background and where he came from and why he is the way he is. That's some of my favorite stuff in Leprechaun Back to the Hood. And the whole opening scene of him just emerging from the ground and fighting with that with the preacher, and swinging the shovel at him instead. I love that whole sequence. I think the Leprechaun is definitely on his game in this movie. The characters are great. There were some really funny scenes in this movie that really make you laugh out loud, like when the Leprechaun answers the phone when he's talking to the girl and stuff. I love that scene. And Leprechaun Back to the Hood had some great kills, man. I mean, the jaw rip was one of my favorite ones. And it was one of the few Leprechaun films where somebody died, and I was like, oh, no, not her. You know what I mean? Like, I cared about that character. No. So I love Leprechaun Back to the Hood. As underrated as I believe that it is, I think it's a great movie. It's definitely one of my favorites, and it's easily, firmly number 3 on my list. Oh, also, I love the Leprechaun's wardrobe, his outfit. In all the other previous installments, he had the bright green, the striped, plaid the undercoat, the ascots, we call him, he tuck in by his neck. This one, he looked a lot older, and because in the first one, he says he's, 500 or 600 years old, and then the second one, he says like 1,000 years old. He's an old monster. He's an old entity. He should look his age. And the weathered, like darker, kind of more gritty costume for that movie, I really, really liked that stuff. Got rid of the buckle and all that, so he looked a little bit less like a leprechaun and more of just like a creature, like an old monster just from back in the day, which how he should look. Not that he looked bad in the other movies, because he always looked amazing, but that is another big reason why I love Leprechaun Back to the Hood, and it lands firmly at number 3. Landing at number 2 on my list for the Leprechaun is going to be Leprechaun 3. I love Leprechaun 3, you guys. I'm sure this is a fan favorite. Actually, I know it's a fan favorite because I've seen other rankings back in the day, and I know Warwick has even talked about it in interviews that Leprechaun 3 just happens... It seems to be a fan favorite, and I think it's for so many reasons. It's the first one that introduces the fish out of water kind of storytelling of the leprechaun being in an unfamiliar place. And, that I think really, really works because clearly it went on through the rest of the franchise. And, I mean, the shots and the filming that they did get in actual Vegas and all the lights and how big it felt, I think that all played into it. And this was the first movie in the franchise where they really decided to focus in on the comedy and make Lep a little more comedic driven that the Leprechaun that we know today, and I think they did it wonderfully. Some amazing kills, and the one criticism I do hear is that they spent a lot of time in the pawn shop in the beginning, but for me that is one of the most memorable moments in the whole movie, in the whole franchise. The way Leprechaun just tortures that pawn shop guy. I mean, like, he does so much shit to him in that pawn shop, and I just love it. And I don't know why, and I know I'm sick and I'm weird for this, but I get some kind of sick fascination when the Leprechaun is just beating him with the shillelagh and whacking him. I just love it. I don't know why. I love it. I get some fascination out of it. It's amazing to me. I love it. Leprechaun 3 was great, you guys. Great actors, great characters, great kills. It had Caroline Williams, is it, from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and from Hatchet. She was in it. Obviously, this was long before Hatchet came out, but still, it had some amazing people in it. Fazio, who played the you know, the magician. I thought he was good, and his kill was absolutely amazing. And Caroline's kill was amazing as well. It was just a great movie. Leprechaun 3 is just a great, great film. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's not without its goofy stuff, of course. Like, the guy gets bit, and Lep's blood gets into him, and he starts turning into a leprechaun, and they fiend for potatoes. Like, that's kind of weird. And the Irish, okay, whatever. It's not a perfect movie, but when it comes to ranking it within the franchise, it's definitely one of my favorite Leprechaun films, without a shadow of a doubt. I love Leprechaun 3. I could rewatch it over and over and over. You guys probably saw this coming, and if you didn't, I'm sure you know by now, my number one is number one. The original Leprechaun. I love the original movie. Like, Mark Jones was the one who started it all, writer and director of the movie Leprechaun. I think it's a great movie, and I still feel like it stands up to the test of time. I still watch this movie. It doesn't feel dated to me. Like, obviously, you know it is, but it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel like it needs a reboot or anything like that. It's still great for what it is. And I'm a personal fan of, obviously, the comedy and the one-liners of the Leprechaun, but I also love when he's scary and when it's creepy, because he is a horror villain and he is killing people. And the beginning of the Leprechaun movie, it's creepy as hell. I mean, come on, right? Like, it's creepy as hell at the O'Grady farm with all the lights are off, and Leprechaun's in the suitcase, and he's talking like the little girl, and he jumps out, you know what I mean? And the lady falls down the stairs and breaks her neck, and he's walking down the dark hallway with the tea, and, you know, I mean, it's creepy. Like, it's such a creepy... It's such a creepy tone in the beginning of that movie when he locks them in the crate. It's just, the whole tone in the beginning of the movie is so creepy, and I love it so much. And even when you continue the movie, it has the two best characters in the whole franchise for me, and that's Ozzy and Alex. It's a shame Alex never came back to the role. Ozzy, of course, did. Those two characters, absolutely best characters in the whole franchise without a shadow of a doubt. You just love them. You're rooting for them, and you just want them to make it at the end of the day. And Jennifer Aniston's first big role, and she wants to deny it and all this, and, you know, I wasn't in that movie, Well, yes, you were, and I'm glad that you were, so you can live with that for the rest of your life, because it's an amazing movie. You shouldn't be ashamed of it, because I hate how people shit on these Leprechaun movies. I mean, even the people that are in them, oh, well, you know, oh, you've seen a Leprechaun movie? Ugh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And like they say, well, you know, we understood we were making a Leprechaun film, so, you know, it's like, no, man, these movies are amazing. Like, I don't know if there's anyone on the planet that takes these movies as seriously as I do, because I don't think that they're serious in tone. It's a killer Leprechaun. I get it, and I'm okay with the quirks and the outrageousness and all that stuff, but I still love this movie, and I love this franchise, and I probably take it more seriously than I should, but it's one of my all-time favorites. Leprechaun was absolutely amazing. The four-leaf clover at the end, the way they killed him, I thought was clever, and led into some great, great special effects when he was melting before he fell back into the well. It was absolutely amazing. Left on a little tease that he's still alive and that he's going to come back. It was just a great movie, guys. The original Leprechaun is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's my number one when it comes to the Leprechaun franchise ranking. There you guys go. That is my Leprechaun franchise ranking from my least favorite to my most favorite in the Leprechaun franchise. Now, if you're upset about Leprechaun Origins not being on the list, guys, let's just be honest. We all know where it was going to land on the list anyway. So why waste anybody's time talking about that piece of garbage? I don't want to waste your time. So with that being said, before we sign off here, I want to give a huge shout out to all my new subscribers this week. Now, I know there's more than you four, but there's something in the settings where I'm not able to see all my new subscribers, but for the ones that I can see, I'm going to shout you guys out each and every week because I want you guys to know how much it means to me. So, with that being said, I want to say a huge shout out to Troy G, Liam03, Bastan the Artist, and Happy Shiloh. which, by the way, Happy Shiloh, you had specifically asked me to rank the Leprechaun movies. So please comment down below and let me know if this video was entertaining to you and it was what you were looking for. So much love and shout out and thank you to you four and to my other subscribers that I don't know who you are. You're still awesome, and I'll shout you out if you let me know who you are. And one way you can do that is you can follow me on the official Instagram for This Is My Design Horror channel right there. Now, if you want a more personal look at my life of horror, or you want to talk to me in private messages, I've had people reach out to me. We go back and forth, whatever have you. Instagram is the place to do it, you guys. So again, subscribe if you like what you see. If you like the channel, you want to see more, a new video every weekend. If you're enjoying it, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. I got some really cool ideas that I have coming up on the channel real soon. So with that being said, you guys, this is my design.